Greek philosophy. We've had a shir about the Chashmonoim being accused of usurping the kingdom from Malchus Yehuda. Ultimately, they were all wiped out. The whole Chashmonoi kingdom were wiped out. The Ramban writes frightening words in Parshas Vayechi. Yankov says, Lo Yosr Shevet mi Yehuda. Kingdom should always remain with Shevet Yehuda, and the Chashmonoim were out of line. They were Kohanim. With all due respect to the Kohanim, it's not. Oh, yeah, there he is. There he is.
Got wiped out? No, they're
here. But with all the rights and privileges that Kohanim have, Malchus is out of their territory. And the Ramban says, as great as the Chashmonoim were, they were indicted for the fact that they overstepped their boundary, and they were all wiped out horrible.
There were others that said in that shir that they really, there were reasons they needed to take it.
That temporarily. The question is, and we had a whole shir because Achia Shaloni promised Yeravam if he would be a good king, then you could be a king for a long time. Loi kol hayom, not forever, but for a long period of time, which would seem to be at least 100, 200 years. So then the Chashmonoim were not out of line. But we had, that was a while ago. That was actually a Kratzmach shir, I think. We had only a few people.
Let's not keep the fight on.
That's it. And last year, Chanukah, Sunday morning, we had a Lomdish shir, a big debate of Rabbi Kiva Eger and the Sfas Emes about the candles. Every night you light numerous candles. Is the first candle the real mitzvah and the rest are just a hiddur, or all the candles become part of the real mitzvah? In other words, I've discussed many topics on Chanukah, but the most famous topic we never discussed, so here we are today. What do I mean by the most famous topic? There is a question that is attributed to Rabbi Yosef Kaira. He asked it in his Beis Yosef. We'll see today that many people asked it before him, but he asked a certain question, and he gives a number of answers, and since then this has become table talk in every Jewish house around the globe every Chanukah to discuss the question and various answers. A number of years ago a sefer was put out called Ner Lameya, a candle for 100. 100 answers to the question. Since then many more have been added. Today we hope to go through about 220 of them. The Kleisenberger Rebbe, apparently every Chanukah he would have a tish, and every night of Chanukah he would give another answer to the question. Well, what is the question? So let's go to number one. Baruch Hashem, we were able to fit everything on one paper today. Number one is, this is from the Beis Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Kaira, in the beginning of Hilchas Chanukah. So first of all, he says just a story. The Yidden overpowered the Greeks, at least as far as taking control of the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash did not look good, to say the least. And but first things first, they tried to clean it out. Pinu sechalecha, they emptied it out. They wanted to light the menorah. Of course, all the oil had been contaminated. They found one jug which had the signet ring of the Kohen Gadol. A whole shaila what that means. Since when did the Kohen Gadol put his signet ring on oil? But that not for now. Could be we discussed that as well. But join me number one right away. Right? The amount of the Gemara says the amount of oil was enough for one night, and boom, it lasted 8 days. Just like you take donuts today, if you stick a candle in a donut and you light it, it'll go for 8 days. But some say that's not a miracle, that's natural. But they lit 8 days from that very jug. Why did there need to be a miracle of 8 days, right? Why couldn't they get kosher oil tomorrow? So the Beis Yosef gives two reasons. This is just parenthetical, but interesting to know. All the Yidden were to be considered Tamei Meis. There was a war going on, dead bodies everywhere. Every Jew was considered to be Tamei. And how do you purify yourself from being Tamei Meis, from tomb of a dead body? You need the sprinkling of the Para Aduma, 7 days. V'ef shalahaskin shemen tor. Nobody was able to prepare new oil. Ad sheyavru aleim shiva yom. They need 7 days miyom tumasam from the last day they became tamei. V'yom echad, and one more day, the chsishas hazesim, to actually crush the olives, v'tikunam, and prepare them lahitzim em shemen tor, to get the oil. So one reason it took 8 days is because in order to get pure oil, even if you would quarantine someone on the spot, they need 7 days to purify themselves, 1 day to actually work with the olives. Haran Kos of the Ran says, Shahayolem Shemen Tar, they already had pure oil, but it was a distance away. It was Rachak Arba, it was 4 days journey away. They needed 8 days to go back and forth. There was a city called Tekoa. In fact, the Yerushalmi says this clearly. The Yerushalmi says it's very clear that there was a city which either had oil prepared, or they could go there and very quickly prepare it, but it was a 4-day journey either way, so that's 8 days. Okay. Now comes Rabbi Yosef Kaira with his bomb kasha. He says, I don't understand. Why was it 8 days? Why did the Chachamim decide that the Chanukah Yom Tov should be 8 days? The miracle was only for 7. The oil in the jug was enough for 1 night. The Gemara attests clearly that there was enough for 1 day. Okay, so the first day there was enough. V'nimtze comes out shaloi nasa nes el b'shiva les, only 7 days. So you should be festive for 7 days, not 8. That is the question. Interesting to know, most Rishonim believe they would only light the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash in the afternoon. In the morning, they would clean the candles from the night before, prepare them for the next, but they only lit it the night before. They only lit it at night. The Rambam believes they would light the menorah twice a day. So according to the Rambam, the answer might be very simple. The Gemara says they had enough oil for 1 night, shkoyach. But how are they going to relight it in the morning? According to the Rambam, the menorah was lit in the evening and in the morning as well. So how was there, the fact that they were able to relight it again in the morning means that nest came from nowhere. So there was already a miracle the first day. Okay, so if you go with the shit of the Rambam, you have a simple answer off the bat. There was enough for 1 night, but the Rambam holds they would light the menorah in the evening and again in the morning. Okay, so that's one answer. Good, okay. If you came here just to hear that, well, I hope you stay. V'yesh loymar, the Beis Yosef says like this, 3 answers. Shechilku shemen shebepach l'shmoina chalokim. They divided the oil in the jug into 3 parts. Ubechol laila, and every single night. Into, what did I say, 3? Thank you. Into 8. Into 8, thank you. Good, someone's listening. Good. Ubechol laila hayunoisnim b'menorah chelik echad. Every night they put 1 chelik in the menorah. It would miraculously burn till the morning. In other words, they only put 1/8 of the oil every night. First, second, all the way to the 8th.
But if they divided into 8, they needed 7 more kelim that were tahor, not too many.
The kelim. Okay, let's assume the menorah. Well, you're asking if the menorah itself was tamei or tahor?
In order to separate the oil, to put it into new kelim.
No, they had the jug. They poured a little into one. The second, they measured 1/8.
The little containers, the 8 containers where they have
In the menorah. The menorah. You're asking the bazichin, the cups of the menorah.
Oh, okay.
Rabbi, can I ask you a question? Is this what actually happened, or is this his answer?
He's giving 3 options of what actually happened. Yeah. He means he's talking real. He means business.
Okay.
He's giving 3 options of what actually happened. V'nimtze comes out shebechol haleilis nasenes. Every night a miracle happened.
Right.
I will tell you that this pshat is very difficult. That means the first night they took only 1/8 of the oil and they poured it into the jar, into the candles, into the containers of the menorah. What were they expecting? That it would last the whole night? You can't rely on a miracle. So what were they expecting? It would last 1/8 of the night. The mitzvah is to light the menorah me'erev ad boker, from evening until morning. That's the mitzvah min HaTorah. They were almost expecting that would only last 1 hour to 1/8 of that period of time. So they would rather have 8 times doing a quasi mitzvah than 1 time doing a full mitzvah. Very strange cheshbon. B'chlal, doing a mitzvah partly, if you do a mitzvah only to a certain part, does it even count? If you only have half a kazayas of matzah on Pesach, do you have to eat it? Are you supposed to eat it? Is there an Indian of eating it? When it comes to prohibitions, we know if you eat a chazer, you eat the size of a kazayas of pig, you get malchus. less than a kazais, you won't get whipped, but it's still prohibited. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish have a debate. Reish Lakish holds less than the amount is only rabbinic, Minator you're allowed to eat it. And Rabbi Yochanan, who the halacha follows, says no. When it comes to prohibitions, even a drop is prohibited. Okay, you need a certain amount to get to the full violation with the punishment and the consequences, but even an iota, minute amount, is already prohibited. The question is, what about by a mitzvah? Do I say the same thing by a mitzvah? That to get the full mitzvah, you need the full amount, but if you have half, at least do half. So there happens to be a big debate in the Achronim. The Shavus Yankov, Rabbi Yankov Reisher, was a big Rav, one of the biggest poskim. We're a little hesitant to quote him here because of his opinions about Koyanim these days. But he was one of the biggest Rabbanim 350 years ago. And he believes when it comes to a mitzvah, there's no such thing as half the amount. You know? Half a kazayis of matzah just won't cut it. If a lulav needs to be a certain height, if it's too short, then there's no point of shaking it. There's nothing to it. The Chidah, who was a generation later, disagrees, and the Chidah says, if by prohibitions we say that, there's the full amount, but even a drop carries the prohibition, then so to by a mitzvah we should say, to get full credit for the mitzvah, you need a certain amount, you need a kazayis of matzah. If you don't have that, then you have part of the mitzvah. He writes, it's a ksas mitzvah. Ksas mitzvah. The Chidah had a friend, Maharit Al-Ghazi, Rabbi Yom Tov Al-Ghazi, was a big Paisik and a Makubal in Eretz Yisrael in the 1700s, a good friend of the Chidah. He believes even further. He believes you're actually obligated to do whatever you can to fulfill the mitzvah. If you have only a few crumbs of matzah, not only there's an Inyan, you have to eat it. The same obligation you have to eat a full kazayis of matzah, you have to eat whatever matzah you have available. He says you don't make a bracha.
Based on anything?
Based
like
it's probably based on there's So the Shagas Arya has a whole in Simon Kuf. The Shagas Arya has seems to have proofs to this idea. The Shagas Arya wants to say the same thing as the Maharit, that you have to do it even if it's less than the amount. The Shagas Arya contends you even have to make a bracha.
Yeah. Wow. With a bracha.
You have to make a bracha, but they discuss, could you make there's a chiv to eat? There's the full mitzvah, there's half a mitzvah. Just like half of a kazayis of chazir is osam in Torah, half a kazayis of matzah, if that's what you have to eat it. The problem is, could you make a bracha ala chilas matzah? Achila always means a kazayis. Ein achila pachas me kazayis, achila means a kazayis. So it could be you would have to switch around the words of the bracha. Switch around the words of, mitzvah matzah or something.
Can you make a hamitzi?
Yeah, you make hamitzi on anything, on a crumb. But you'd have to change the words of alachilas matzah. So Akaponim, the Shagasarya and the Marit Al-Ghazi firmly believe that even, a portion of a mitzvah is biblically enforced. The Chidah says it's a ksas mitzvah, but the Shvus Yankov holds it's rubbish, it's garnish, there's nothing to it. So you wonder over here, when the Chashmonaim are thinking to themselves, we can divide it 1/8 for every night, but what do we come out with? They'll never get a full mitzvah. We'll get a quasi-mitzvah every night. According to the Shvus Yankov, it's a waste of time. You're not accomplishing anything. According to the Chidah, even him, it's a ksas mitzvah. But if you'd put it all in the first night, you'd get a full mitzvah. Either according to the Chidah, you have to figure out, l'chayr, it's better to do the full mitzvah now than have many ksas mitzvahs. According to the Marit Al-Ghazi and the Shagas Arya, you can better understand their cheshbon because a half mitzvah really is choshev in the eyes of the Torah. But you could still ask that in Torah we always deal with the present. If you have the ability to do a full mitzvah now, you do it. You don't do half of it and put some away for tomorrow.
But you're not going to have oil tomorrow.
Doesn't matter. You always did tomorrow. That you're an onus. Now you do the best you can. So it's a very hard pshat. The first pshat of the Beis Yosef is a hard pshat. Va'oid yesh loymar, another pshat. Shela'acher shenosnu shemen b'neiris hamenorah, as they poured the oil into the candles of the menorah, kashir, they poured from the entire jug into the menorah. Nisher hapach mole kebetchila. The jug was still full. As they poured into the menorah, The pach was still, the jug, the flask was still full, didn't diminish. V'nikr hanes af b'layla rishona. So even on the first night, the nes was noticeable. Yeah, they found the oil, as natural oil, they poured it in. As they poured it, the pach was still full. So that's a major miracle the first night. Inami, a third option, shebelel rishon nasnu kol Hashem and b'nei. It's a similar thing. They poured in all the oil into the candles, and the pach was empty. V'dolku kol alayla, the whole night the things burnt. Ubaboiker, they came in the morning. Motzu haneris malayim shemen. The candles were still full of oil. So the miracle wasn't in the jug; it was in the actual receptacle in the menorah.
What was it?
So it burned through the night.
What was it at the end?
Oh, which one of the three? We'll see. There were more options. He's saying
100 answers, no?
okay, but not all the answers are discussing what happened lamaisa. Some of them are other answers. These are three answers
They
lamaisa.
couldn't have all three happened.
That's right. He's off. No, he's saying one of the three. He's saying one of the three.
I mean, this is a general question. Not just apply. This doesn't apply. Just apply.
Oh, what's Shativ L'Kim Chayim? That all these three could have happened. The Eibishter definitely could have arranged.
Could have happened.
And
But physically, which one?
one of them happened. One of them happened. Right. V'chein b'chol layla v'layla. Hold on. He says so too every night. Wait a second. So too every night. Not so fast. Those words are very troublesome. Because the last night when they came in the morning, the oil was still there. He says every single night. So it doesn't mean every single night, except for the last night. So hold on. So on the
Add the oil.
The donuts are causing a big commotion.
Yeah, like take it somewhere else.
Excuse me. Who opened your
He paid for his brother-in-law's house.
I can't imagine any other answers.
there's plenty more.
That's three. The only option.
Okay, so if you look at number 2, just tell you there's a vart to the Bard. Well, first we'll throw out just a couple of the famous answers, and then we'll go on our journey. The Barditchever in his Kedushas Levi, he wants to know. He asked the question. He says like this. He says a mashal. Imagine a melech gadol va'adir shenoisem matana lekama anoshim. You have a powerful, lofty king. He gives a gift to a number of people. Yesh kan beis kittas. There are two groups of the recipients. Hakasa echad loy nechshev beineim ledover gadol masher melech noisem lehem. The first group are more interested in the gift than the fact that the king gave it to them. Heim chafetzim b'matnas chinam. They're very excited that look what I got. The fact that the king chose to give them something doesn't excite them as much as the item itself. Hakata beis, the second group, asher heim b'mayla gedola mishaynu, who are a little more lofty. V'lahem chachma b'sichlam, they verstehen a bissel. Magia lahem beis minit tanugim, they have two sorts of pleasure. Ha'echad taka, one is on the gift. Habeis, on the fact that the king, the melech gadol va'adir, the great powerful king, yachvetz ba'avosam, he desires me, he chose me, he cared for me to give me something. And the Barditchever says these two simchas should be separated separately. So he says, for example, on Pesach, we celebrate Pesach for 7 days, eat matzah, but the Korban Pesach you bring on the 14th of Nisan. The Korban Pesach was brought on the 14th. Okay, it was eaten that night, the night of the 15th, with the matzah and the maror. But he says, why wouldn't you bring it on Pesach itself? And he says this idea. The Eibusha took us out of Mitzrayim. There's two things. There's the fact he took us out of Mitzrayim. We're free from bondage. 7-day celebration. But then we have a day just to think about, you know who took us out? The Groise Gott in Himmel cared about us. It's a separate celebration. So he says the same thing by Chanukah. You know why there's 8 days? It's just like Pesach. There's 7 and 1. From day 2 to day 8, the celebration is for the oil. The first night, it's not about the oil. That was natural. They had it. The first night, you're celebrating the fact that you know who did the miracle? The Melech Gadol Va'adir. That's the explanation the Barditchever gives. Okay, very nice. Chanukah, here's a cute one. Chanukah stands for Ches Neidus V'halacha Kebeis Hillel. Chanukah's Rosh Hashanah Ches Neidus, 8 candles, and the halacha follows Beis Hillel, meaning Beis Shammai holds you start with 8, then 7, then 6, then 5. Beis Hillel says you go 1 to 3, you go up. So the Rosh Hashanah of Chanukah is Ches Neidus, the halacha Kebeis, you follow Beis Hillel. If we would only light 7 candles, then on the fourth night, Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel would agree that you light 4 candles. You wouldn't be able to tell who the halacha follows. Now that there's 8 nights and 8 candles, there's never a night where Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel say the same thing. They're always different. And therefore, every night you're able to look at the menorah and say, this is Chanukah, you could see halacha Beis Hillel. Only because there's 8 candles. Had there been 7, there would be a night when the 4th night they would both hold 4. You wouldn't be able. It wouldn't be noticeable halacha Beis Hillel. Yeah.
The 4th night is the same no matter which side you go.
Not when there's 8. Not when there's 8.
From 5.
8, 7,
Count.
6.
5.
You're right, 5. You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
I ran out of fingers.
The Shoyal Umeshiv, the great Rav of Lvov 150 years ago, he came up with another reason. If you would have 7 nights of Chanukah, then our menorahs would be 7 candles. You're not allowed to make a replica of a tool in the Beis HaMikdash.
Yeah.
The menorah in the Beis HaMikdash had special cups and flowers, this and that. But the menorah is kosher without that. So we would be having replicas, real substitutes. It's also, you're not allowed to make substitutes of the kalim of the Beis HaMikdash. That's why you made 8. That was the reason he gave.
Models of the Beis Hamikdash that make they copy the kalim, or they're allowed to do that.
8 sticks.
Definitely not if you use it. If you're using it to light candles. Tak is supposed to be a little different. Yeah, it definitely should be different.
But the fact there's an 8th branch is already a huge difference. So you can make it look the same.
Yeah, exactly. The 8th makes a
Still haven't
difference.
heard
The
of
8th
different
makes a
versions.
difference. So we'll see.
There's only 3 versions
The
so far.
Baalei Musar like to say that you think life is natural. The sun rises, the sun sets, it rains, the clouds come, the clouds go, you breathe. Once the Yidden saw 7 nights of miraculous oil, they realized that the same way these 7 nights it was the Eibush who gave us the oil, so too the first night. You think you come up with the oil on your own, everything God puts in your hand. Generally, you're not aware of it, but once miracles begin to happen in your life, you start to realize that everything that happens is really under the hand of the Eibishter. Even the stuff you took for granted. It's an expression of the Ramban. The Ramban writes in Parshas Bo, a famous expression, from the open miracles, from the Nisim Hagluyim, from the open miracles, we can appreciate the hidden miracles. And Ramban says the tachlis of life is to come to this perception and understanding. That the sun rising and sun setting is the same hand of God as... What's the difference of physics or things which break physics? Physics is just the rules that we have from day to day. That's it, right? The fact that water descends instead of rises is because that's the day-to-day law of physics. But it's no less of a wonder, it's no less the hand of God than if water would go up. Just we're not used to that, it would be a surprise. It could be the other way around. If the Eibush should have made water go up, that would have been physics, and water going down would have surprised us. It's all the exact same hand of the Eibishter. So that's the answer. The Chachmei Musa give. And actually, they quote that Ramban, the Lashon of from the open miracles, one comes to appreciate and understand the hidden subtle miracles of day-to-day life. Okay, that's another approach. Okay. Some Rishonim say that the Chacham Dafka wanted to choose 8 days to hint to the fact that Milah was abolished by Antiochus and his regime. They abolished Milah. That was one of the big things. In fact, it's a story. And there was a woman, she mauled her kid, and the soldiers were coming, and she had to kill her kid, and she jumped off as well. They outlawed Bris Milah, so to hint to that, Chanukah became 8 days. Okay, so you have all these other types of answers explaining why it's 8 days. But the Beis Yosef is really getting to the core of what actually happened at the time of the miracle. He gives 3 options. The Shail is always attributed to the Beis Yosef. In truth, many before already asked it. So why was the Beis Yosef credited to it? So it reminds me of something the Rebbe once said. When the Rebbe's father, Reb Leivik, was getting smicha from Reb Chaim Brisker, a famous episode transpired. Reb Chaim was asking Shaila, Reb Chaim Brisker was verhering Reb Leivik, and they began to talk about Eruvin, and he asked Reb Leivik if you have numerous people in a courtyard during Sukkot, but they didn't one house is supposed to host a certain amount of matzah food as if everybody's guests in that house. What if they didn't do that? So Blavik said, but if there's one sukkah in the courtyard, the sukkah itself unites all of them together. So somebody once asked the Rebbe, there's a Meiri who says this already 700 years before the Blavik, Ezoktishen. What was the big deal? So the Rebbe said like this, the Steiger, the normal way of learning in Russia, was to learn throughout Shas with the main commentators. Today, we learn Gemara so slowly because we want to learn everything there is to know about that piece. On one piece, you want to know everything that's been said from 1,000 years ago until yesterday. So you want to learn 50 Rishonim and all the Rosh Hashivas and 100 Achronim to learn what everyone has to say, and that's why at the end of the year we learn one page of Gemara. Back in the day, it wasn't like that. They used to learn the main Rishonim that were publicly disseminated. Most people didn't have access to the random story. Many of them weren't printed in manuscripts. Even if they were printed, they were few and far between. Weren't really extant. The main Rishonim were available and people learned that. And therefore in each sugya you learned a couple different commentaries and you moved on and on and on. And that's why they were able to learn so much. They had a good knowledge of the entire Shas. It could be today we know more about, now we're specialists. In one line of Gemara we know more. But in the rest of the Gemara we know absolutely nothing. So the Rebbe made this comment that, there's a Meiri, but it wasn't the normal thing the Meiri is a great Rishon, but he wasn't part of the mainstream Rishonim, the 3 or 4, the Rif, the Rosh, the Rambam, the Ran. Meiri was kind of on the side. People didn't always have the Sefer. So it wasn't a thing to get your hands on every Sefer and learn it. So the fact that Reb Leivik and Reb Chaim, no one made mention of the Meiri, it's not a wonder. So it's a very similar sentiment over here. I think what happened was that everyone had a Beis Yosef because everyone learned the Tur. The Tur was the first Shulchan Aruch 700 years ago, and everyone had Rabbi Yosef Kairo's Beis Yosef. Everybody learned that was the Seder. Everyone learned Beis Yosef. Everyone knew the question from the Beis Yosef. All the Sfarim I'm going to bring to you that asked the question were not mainstream Sfarim. And like the Rebbe said, people didn't try and get their hands on every single Sefer that you could. Anyhow, having said that, look at number 3. This is the Rosh. Now, the Rosh is a mainstream Pesach, he always was, but this is in his Sefer Tosfos HaRosh. The Rosh wrote many things. He wrote Shuvas, he wrote his Halacha Sefer on the Gemara, but he also wrote his own version of Tosfos. The Rosh passes away in 1327. The Beis Yosef's like 200 years later. The Beis Yosef was born in 1488. So, but the Rosh's Tosfos were hard to get hold of. In fact, the Pri Megadim 250 years ago writes, I saw somewhere about the Rosh's Tosfos. I don't know what they're talking about. I've never seen such a thing. Never even heard of it. Didn't have it. So the Rosh says like this, but we have it today. The manuscripts were printed. And number 3, V'nasi is going on the Gemara in Shabbos. A miracle transpired, and they lit 8 days. V'im Taimar frek the Rosh v'lama kavash shmoina yamim. Why 8? V'aloi anes loy hayakim. It's only 7 days. Boy hayashir lailechad. It did have the amount for one night. Exact same shaila. V'yeshloima. What does he answer? Shecholkus apach l'shmoina. They divide into 8 parts. Hidliku b'chol laila adashminis. And every night they put 1/8 in. He asked our kasha afogav dermin hasam. The Gemara says that the menorah needs to light till the morning. You have to fill it up to the top. It's called 10 lamidos to put in the right amount. Kadei shetei delek it should burn from evening till morning. Says the Rosh, Hainu heicha de'efsher. That requirement is only when you can. That's what's the Rosh saying? The Rosh seems to be saying you can actually fulfill the mitzvah of the menorah without it going till the morning. Let's say you would only have a little bit of oil and no miracle is going to happen, and you light it and it lasts for 2 hours. It seems from the Rosh you did the mitzvah. The hiddur is to go the whole night if you're able to, but you can actually do the mitzvah even for a little. So that would answer the kasha we had on this answer in the Beis Yosef, that what were they thinking? Why would they give up a full mitzvah to do quasi-mitzvahs for 8 nights? It's not a quasi-mitzvah, it's the mitzvah on a lower tier. It's a lower, but it's actual mitzvah. It seems from the Rosh, if it lasts only a couple hours, you actually do the mitzvah. It's not the lechatchila. It's not behider. You take one to go.
My son had some questions on a few things you said. So I'm gonna
That's why you're leaving, huh?
no, he actually told me to tell you. I don't want to disturb the whole shir about New Year's first.
That's why
The
he's
statement.
I'm saying apparently the
But the Pashmanoim, Sukkot, Hanukkah, the 8 days, why?
Oh boy.
Hang around. Maybe I'll answer it.
That's a good thing for Thursday night shir. Good. Come to Thursday night shir. We'll talk about it there. What?
A little different here.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you see that might help take away the kasha we had on the Beis Yosef when he gave that answer. Inami, another answer. Nosnu b'layla rishayna kula b'seichem. They filled it up all the way. V'loy dolak mimenu b'chol layla ki mashminis. It only went down 1/8 each night. The Beis Yosef doesn't say this. This is a different
You
answer.
said that it stayed full.
Right.
Yeah,
Saying it went down.
yeah, it went down 1/8 every night.
Still a
You
miracle.
see, you're right. The advantage of this answer over the first answer is that here they put it all in. The Gemara says in Psachim and Menachos you have to fill it up. So the first answer the Rosh is that's if you can. Here he says no, they did that. They filled it up. It went down 1/8.
The story works that the miracle was even before. It was when they filled up the jug from oil. It was when they were filling it up. It filled up with much more lug than it was supposed to.
Say that again. Meaning what?
I remember hearing that it was way before the miracle. Was that the jug itself was filled up? When they filled it up, it wasn't completely full. When
the
they
jug
filled it
kept
up.
on refilling. That's
No,
what
you're saying something else. You're saying something else. You're saying as they poured it, the jug stayed full.
As they poured when
Into
they,
the menorah.
after they actually ground when they were pouring the oil into the jug.
No, they didn't pour the oil. The jug had the oil.
Yeah, from before.
Into the menorah.
No, not into the menorah. From way before, when they were actually packaging it,
Yeah.
they poured in the required amount of milk, and it wasn't full. And they poured even more until there was even more for that would actually last the entire half.
That's very interesting. Where's that from? Okay, never heard that one before. He's saying the Chatchila, when they made that, who knows when, they were able to fill in 8 times the amount into the jug.
So this
Okay, very interesting.
The miracle was prepared before
Good.
the.
I wonder who says that. Very nice, very interesting.
Find the source.
Fine. Okay. So the difference over here is though that they put in the full amount the first night. They were yotze the chiyuv of put in midasa. It went down 1/8.
What?
Which means also that they didn't have to refill it every night. It was what it was. It was, the Magen Avraham says, he gives another answer. He says the moment they lit it the first night, it stayed lit for 8 days straight. They didn't have to light it every night. It remained lit for 8 days straight. We're not saying that. We're saying over here that every night they would have to relight it, but they wouldn't have to reload oil into the. So even though the oil wasn't full, you could say the chiyuv of you have to fill it up is when you're pouring the oil into the menorah, you have to make sure it's full. But according to this answer, every night the menorah was the way it was. It has whatever oil remained from the night before. We're not putting anything in. We're not filling it up halfway. It is already full halfway, right? Inami, third answer, after they poured the oil into the menorah, nishara kli male, the kli was still full, like the Beis Yosef said, v'nikar hanes af b'layla rishona. So he also gives 3 answers, but one of them is very different, the one that it went down 1/8 every night. So that's the Tosfos Harosh.
100% full. Beis Yosef says there was 100%
Right,
full
exactly.
the next day.
Yeah. The pshat is, but according to that answer, the Beis Yosef on the 8th day when they came, there was no more oil. According to the Rosh's second answer, there was a miracle all 8 days. According to the Beis Yosef's other answer, it was a chayra the last day with the Pri Chodesh we're going to see. He's going to ask. Then the last day, nothing happened. Look at number 4 is the Meiri. The Meiri was the same time as the Rosh. He was 1 year older than the Rosh. Okay, the Rosh is born in 1250, roughly. The Meiri, though, apparently is 1249. So, the Meiri, he says like this. This is in his commentary to Shabbos. V'layla harishin shaloi ha'yasham nes hashemen. The first night that there was no miracle of the chayr of the oil. Mevarchin ala geula. It's the war, the redemption from the war. You're celebrating the victory over the war, plus al haydos metzias apach, the fact that we found the pach. So the Meiri gives 2 answers. The first night is celebrating the victory of the war. Second, the fact that we found the pach. There's a mashal which is given There's a fellow that was traveling and he has 8 sacks of gold. Thieves come upon him. They steal 7 of the sacks. Punkt one of them he was able to hide away. He comes to the next town and he runs to the police station and he hires an investigator. He has money. He has 1 sack at least. He hires an investigation and the police find the thieves and all the money's restored. He gets the 7 stolen sacks back. The guy comes home to town and that he had made a vow that if he gets his money back, he's going to give 1/5 of all of it to tzedakah. So the gaboy, the collectors of tzedakah come and they say, we're here to collect your dues, 1/5 of all the sacks. He says, sure. He takes out 7 sacks, says, take 1/5 from each one. They say, where's the 8th sack? He says, no, that wasn't stolen from me. There was no miracle with the 8th sack. They said, Chacham, the biggest miracle was the 8th. If they would have taken it from you, you wouldn't have been able to hire an investigation to get any of your money back. It's only a miracle they didn't take it from you. Now you're able to get back the other 7. You're saying the fact that the Yevonim missed one of these glasses of oil is not a miracle. That was the only way we were able to have a miracle for the next 7 nights is because of this. So it has to be counted as well. That's the mashal. I don't know who first gave that mashal. So the Meiri gives 2 options. Either the redemption from the war.
Burned all 8. That was the miracle. Day, night, always on.
That's what the Magen Avraham says. There is a
8
shit.
days, right? Because even the first day was supposed to only get to the
Right, but Bepashtus had only lit at night. So then the Meiri says, he says, and the Sha'ar HaLeilis is for the oil, but the first night's either for the war, the fact they found the Pach. V'yesh Mishapirish says the Meiri, Sha'af heim hirgishu b'miyat Hashem, and they knew there was so little oil. V'chilku l'shmayna leilis, they divided to 8 nights. Kashir ha'alicha v'achazor, which is how long it will take to go back and forth to get new oil. So he brings the option that the Rosh says, Beis Yosef say, they lit 1/8 every night. Ve'ein nirali. She'im kein heya choyu heim seimchem ala nes b'layla rishona. How could they rely on a miracle? If they only put 1/8 the first night, were they expecting it to light throughout the whole night? You can't rely on a miracle. Elamai, they expected it to last for an hour, then you're going to put the whole thing in. You have a mitzvah tonight. You don't think about tomorrow. So you see, the Meiri really has an issue with that answer. He comes out against it. It doesn't make sense. Since you can't rely on a miracle, you have to expect it's going to last only a portion of the night. The mitzvah in Torah is Erev Ad Boker, the whole night. You're going to miss out the next 7? Too bad. You deal with the present. That's the Meiri's opinion.
The thing with his opinion is that you can say that according to this shot that they still were not relying on a miracle. In other words, they said we'll start with an 8th. If it lasts longer, great, we have a miracle. If not, we'll add the other.
There are some who suggest that people stayed up all night next to the menorah, and if it was about to go out, they were going to pour more in.
Right, that's not.
Yeah, but the problem is the Gemara says 10 lo midasa. You have to fill it up l'chatchila. It's almost like Chanukah licht, right? The Chanukah licht, with the moment you light it, there has to be enough fuel to last for a half hour after the Zman, right? If you put a little bit, you can add oil after. Now, it could be the menorah, the base of Mikdash might be different. Chanukah menorah, that might be the chiv, the way the Chomim are mechayev. But by the menorah in the base of Mikdash might be different. But the words 10 lo midos of the Gemara means you got to fill it up l'chatchila. But some taka do suggest that. Some suggest they poured in a little, they lit it, and they were on standby. They were watching. And the moment the flame would flicker and the oil was going to disappear, they would put more in. So they were hoping it would go the whole night. So, but like I'm saying, it's an interesting thing because the Gemara says when the Torah says from evening till morning teaches you need l'chatchila put in that amount of oil. Here we're splitting it. We're saying no, you don't need that amount of oil, but I'll still get it to the morning because any moment it's going to extinguish, I'll quickly refill.
That's why he gives his answer, Dafka.
No, there are those who say that's what happens.
I know.
Yeah. No, but I think no. The Meiri wouldn't accept that. L'chayra. Yeah. Or maybe he wasn't entertaining the svara that people stood there a whole night waiting. I mean, it's a chiddush to say that's what happened, right? They must have been so exhausted from the war, you know. Also, if they assumed that it was going to flicker out, they said, "Let's all be sleeping," and you know. Let's imagine that it went exactly. So you see, the Meiri dealt with it already. Look at number 5 is the Nemukei Yosef. The Nemuke Yosef was at the end of the Rishonim. He passes away in the early 1400s. He's still before the Beis Yosef. He says, "V'im tomer v'lama kova shmeina." Why 8? V'aloy anes loy hoya l'shiva. Kvar hoya b'ay lahadlik. There's enough for one day. Yesh loymar. So he answers like this: Shenasnu b'layla rishona kula b'seich menera. They put all the oil in. V'loy dolak mimenu b'chol layla. Only 1/8. The same answer that the Rosh says. The Meiri and the Beis Yosef didn't offer this option. Right? The Meiri wouldn't have had such a. The Beis no. The Beis Yosef didn't say this one. This is they put it all in and it went down 1/8 every night. Beis Yosef said no. Beis Yosef said they put 1/8 every night.
No, for Eidir Shleima.
That was that.
Nishra.
That was that was either was full in the jug. No, the last one is they came in the morning. The cups were still completely full. Yeah, no, full.
They're similar.
Right. Well, okay, we'll see because the Rebbe is going to go to town with the last answer of the Beis Yosef. We'll see soon.
Because it wasn't enough for.
Right, but it's interesting. The Meiri's kasha wouldn't apply on this answer because they did put the whole thing the first night. They did not rely on a miracle. Punkt happened. So, and had the Meiri brought it, he wouldn't have had his kasha. He doesn't bring it. Doesn't bring an option. Mukh continues. Inami, another answer. La'achar she'riku Hashem min apach. After they emptied it in the first night, nishur hakli malei. So this answer we saw everybody likes, that the pach remained full, and that's what the Beis Yosef said. The Rosh said. So you see, the question was asked by many Rishonim before the Beis Yosef, but the truth is, it goes back even earlier. Jump to number 9 for a second. Number 9 is the She'iltus. The She'iltus Rabachoi Goin. So he lived about 1400 years ago. The Meiri says the story was like this. The She'iltus had a son who was not interested in learning. The yeshiva system. So the She'iltus said, I have an idea. I'm going to write a sefer of halacha according to the parshas. Halacha according to the parsha. But, it's more exciting. It's more innovative. It was a chiddush. He was the first one to do that. So he goes. He has halacha on all the parshas. He finds some connection, and he gets into a halachic issue. And but it's on the parsha. It's on the parsha. And so in Parshas Vayishlach is actually where he speaks about Chanukah. And look what he says in number 9. The She'ilta says, when they found the jug, it didn't have afilu yom echad. You ever heard that? Yeah. It didn't have even one night. No. It's a new version. V'nasulem nes and v'dlikumenu 8 days. The first night was a miracle.
Wow.
The first night was a miracle. So the Shiltus doesn't use this to answer any questions. This is his version of the Gemara. So the Sefer HaEshkol was, the Chidah tells us that there were 3 Ravids. He made sure every person knows there were 3 Ravids who almost lived at the same time. One was a Ravid in Spain, Avram ibn Daud, who was a great philosopher. He wrote the Seder HaKabbalah on Jewish history, very important sefer. He was killed al Kiddush Hashem in the 1100s. He wrote a sefer in philosophy as well, a great sefer. Emunah Rama, lofty belief. But shortly after, it was eclipsed by the Rambam's Moreh Nevuchim, and people were busy copying Moreh Nevuchim. No one had time. So his, I don't even know if his thing is extant anywhere. That's one Ravid. Then there was the famous Ravid who argues on the Rambam, who argues on the Rif, argues on the Bam, always arguing, right? That's the famous Ravid, Avram ben David. He had a Shver, who was also called the Ravid. The Ravid's father was also the Ravid. He was Avram Av Bezdin. He lived in Provence, and he wrote the Sefer HaEshkol. And all these 3 people lived in the 1100s. The Sefer HaEshkol asks this kasha, the Beis Yosef's kasha, why are we celebrating 8 days? And he gives 3 answers. His first answer is, look in the She'iltus. The Sefer HaEshkol says, look in the She'iltus. The She'iltus says they didn't have even for one day.
But how does he know this? How does he know that? Everybody says there was enough for one day.
This is the She'iltus heversion of the Gemara. He's 1400 years ago. Right. He had a much more fresh version of the Gemara. He's quoting, in this point, the She'iltus is quoting his version of the Gemara. How does he know? How do you know your Gemara? Because what's what you have in front of you. This is what he had in front of him.
No, but how do you bring it to the language of the Gemara?
No, because the Gemara says the Gemara says
Gemara.
it's just
That was what the
changing.
Gemara said.
It's just changing one word in the Gemara.
Afilu.
V'loy haya bay lahadlik elo or afilu. Elo or afilu.
So that's the difference.
That's the difference. Elo or afilu.
Elo could mean afilu.
Where's the
No,
Gemara?
v'loy. It's in Shabbos. Taf chafal
Says
from the
Elo
base.
in our
V'loy haya bay lahadlik. V'loy haya. What's the lashon? Or you have a Gemara? The exact lashon.
No, but you could even
Okay,
learn
well,
that Elo is
There's
afilu.
another version of a
No.
Gemara that said
No.
afilu. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's the
Oh, that's exactly what we're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. That's
And not it didn't, and it's not something someone brought to the table today. 1400 years ago, this wasn't a version of the Gemara.
Why can't Elo mean afilu?
No,
lot of
v'loy haya
times
boy
used.
lahadlik afilu.
Elo.
No, Ella means v'loy haya boy Ella. All they had was yom echad.
I mean,
Afilu means not even.
You've seen a lot of times Elo means that Elo's like even one.
No, only. Ein lon a melech. Ein lon a melech afilu ato. Ein lon a melech Ella ato.
Found one. Okay, there's others.
So.
only.
Anyhow, so the Sefer Eshkol says that's the first answer. Then the Sefer Eshkol says he likes the answer that the finding of the Pach that the Meiri mentioned, the finding of the fact that they found a jug that wasn't touched, and the third answer that Eshkol gives is the answer everyone else gave, that when they poured into the menorah, the jug remained full. That's the most common answer. It must be that was like a tradition. Maybe that's in fact what actually happened. But the Eshkol says, look in the Shiltas. Here's the fascinating thing. Look at number 10. The same Sheiltus 2 pages earlier writes, Dahu luga, the lug, the jug, the ishtakach that was found in the Hechel, have a bei shiura yom echad, it had the amount for 1 day, vadlikum amenu 8 days. It's an open contradiction in the Sheiltus.
It's all over.
What in the world does that mean? So the Chidah answers the following, and not just him, Yeshaya Pick. Yeshaya Berliner, as he was known, was a great, great scholar 250 years ago. He wrote a commentary in the Sheiltus called She'ilas Shalom. He had a son-in-law who was a big printer, and the son-in-law was printing the Sheiltus, and he told his father-in-law, Rabbi Yeshaya Pick, can you please I need a printer, I'm printing it in less than 2 months, could you write a commentary on it? In 6 weeks, his Shver wrote a whole Piddush on the whole Sheiltus. Yeshaya Pick he had the whole Torah at his fingertips. In the 1700s. The Gaonim of Amol. So the Yeshaya Pick and the Chidah say like this, pshat's like this. In the flask, there was exactly enough for 1 day. When you're going to pour that into the menorah, inevitably some of the oil is going to lag behind. Some of it would be absorbed in the walls of the flat. You can't get it all out. The amount you're going to have is 95%, not the full thing.
Okay.
So the answer, pshat in the Shiltus, is like this. In number 10, is talking about the jug. The jug that was found had enough for 1 day. In number 9 is talking about lahadlik in the menorah. In the menorah, there wasn't enough for 1 day.
So Ella also worked that.
That's genius.
Ella, yeah, man.
So comes Yeshaya Pick and says, it could be the Shiltus had the same version as ours. When our Gemara says there was enough for 1 day, it means in the flask. But in the once we're in the menorah, there's not enough for 1 day. So
Take a bottle of ketchup.
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. It's not all going to come out. It's not,
You don't get 32 ounces.
especially oil. Oil lags, but it's always
And the
it sticks
packaging in
behind.
those
It sticks
days.
behind. Exactly.
It's like ketchup. It sticks to the side. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good answer. It's practical. No.
So the Chidah and the Yeshaya Pick, Yeshaya Berliner, both want to say it answers the Beis Yosef's kasha, because it only had 95% of the oil, but it lit the 100% of the time. So it was a small miracle. But it was something. In other words, maybe you wouldn't have made a day out of it, but once you do the next 7, you throw in the first day, because it was also part. It also had a glimpse of the miracle, But what you see from there is that the Sefer HaEshkol in the 1100s deals with it.
Because the flasks, they would design them with the extra. The flask would have the extra ounce.
You're saying you should
Like,
have
if you're
enough
pouring it
for a
in,
day
it would
plus
be, they
the
would
little
pour
bit
it
that will
in,
get left
plus-
over.
But Uri,
Plus 5.
Uri,
I mean,
just like ketchup doesn't.
No,
put
this-
3 ounces, right?
No,
This
he's
was
saying
made
no. He's
for
asked,
the-
no.
for the
Lav Dafka,
menorah.
this flask was made for the
Oh,
menorah.
that's a different
That's why it
question.
had the seal of the kohen. It could be also for something else. It could be. For, he's
okay.
asked,
But
if it was made for the
made
menorah,
for
the
the menorah, makes
but hold on. But if it sat there for a long time, it evaporates. It, you
Oil
know,
evaporates?
I don't know. Maybe
No,
it
gets,
gets absorbed. It gets absorbed into the in the.
hardens a little bit.
But also it gets absorbed in the pach in the flask.
The entire bottom's gonna be like syrup.
A little hard.
Okay, the question is, does it change in the amount, or does it change in the
Maybe
in
it
the
wasn't
burn
for
in
the
the amount of
Menorah.
capacity? Some of it would have left. Anyhow, so what you see
It
over
could have been
here
for
is
salad.
what you see over here is that
salad oil?
the Shiloh has been well treaded upon before the Yosef Kaira. Comes the pre Chadash in numbers. So let me just. We're gonna try to wrap it up. Listen to this. Look, there's tons to talk about. We'll try and stick it in the next 10-15 minutes. The Maharshal, Reb Shlomo Luria had a custom every Chanukah. He wanted to make a Shechianu the second night. He always wanted to make a Shechianu the second night. So he would buy a new silver menorah every year. Every year a new silver menorah. In order that he would be able to make a Shechianu while his lighting, he would throw in the Shechianu. And the Pri Megadim quotes this. The place can quote this minig, a bizarre minig. First of all, what's the point? More than that, you want to stop throwing a shechiana while you're lighting? It's like a hefsek between the bracha and the lighting. You make a bracha like near Chanukah, and before you light, you throw in a shechiana for your silver menorah. And why every year the second night? What's the pshat?
New fruit or new clothes. Not fruit, but
Yeah,
new clothes
yeah.
for the same price.
Oh no! So if it was new clothes or new fruit, he would have no right to say shechiana in the middle. If it's on the menorah, it's connected, but still seems to be a bit of a hefsek.
Or Rosh Hashanah, you can give
So
it
the
not a
story is like what?
A Rosh Hashanah, it's not a half.
Shechiana is on the Yom Tov. It's on the Yom Tov with the whole kiddushes. No, it's really on the Yom Tov. The fruit is just to pacify certain opinions that say that shechiana. No, really, you have to have in mind the Yom Tov. You also have in mind the fruits. Yeah.
So what was his?
Yeah. So the words like this: the Marshal holds that the reason you're celebrating the first night is like the Meiri, either to celebrate the war or to celebrate the fact you found the jug. You're not actually celebrating the miracle of the oil. The second night's a new celebration. It warrants a shechiana because it's a new celebration. It's a whole new Yom Tov. Not like the Beis Yosef's answers. No, you go like the Meiri, the first night, something else entirely. The Milchama, or the fact that they found this pach. But the actual supernatural power of the oil, that's the second night. It's a new Yom Tov. And therefore the Marshal felt that it really warrants its own Shechianu. But you have to have an excuse. So yeah, you got a new silver menorah. Now, but why did the Marshal want to stick in that extra Shechianu? The Marshal had a story. When he began writing his Sefer Yam Shel Shloimeh, which is his magnum opus on halacha, he was sitting at night and he was writing, and he wasn't sure if he's doing the right thing. Stam writes for him, and he had a little candle, and he's writing his Sefer, and the candle was supposed to go out after half hour, an hour, and it went all night. He had his own Chanukah miracle. He writes about this in his Sefer very cryptically. But later Sforim explain what happened. He says that then I saw that the Eibush apparently wants me to write the Sefer. So that's why he went ahead with writing his Sforim. But that's also why he had a chavivus, he cherished the miracle of Chanukah, because he experienced it. And that's why he wanted that the oil miracle should have its own shechiana. It warrants it. The first night was a separate celebration. Comes the Pri Chadash in number 6. The Pri Chadash is the big God in Eretz Yisrael in the 1600s. In number 6, he quotes the Beis Yosef. Why there 8 days? There was enough for 1 day. So look at the second line of number 6. So the Beis Yosef says to 8 parts, and every night they put in 1/8. It lasted till the morning. So the Nimtza Shebechol Alaylis, there was a miracle. The Eina Mechurvi doesn't understand. He's the same kash as the Meiri. We say in Perek Bameh Madlikin or Perek Kama of Yuma, when the Torah says from evening till the morning, you have to put in enough oil to go all the way. It has to be dug the whole night. Why would they put it in 8 separate parts? You have achieved the first night to light the whole night. The same kasha like the Meiri. So he doesn't like that answer. Oy Tirtzi quotes the other answer of the Beis Yosef. After they put in oil, the pach was molek betchila, right? The jug was full, and they noticed the miracle. The gam ze eino, he doesn't like that either. Rubbish. What happened the last night? The 8th night they poured the oil in. Now the jug was empty. So what are you celebrating the 8th night?
Now we only have 7 again.
You got the first night, but you don't have the 8th night.
Maybe the 8th night stayed full.
Right.
No, because the 9th night they already had new oil. They didn't use the same oil the 9th
Could
night.
still be that it stayed full.
And where is it? They hit it. Where is it? And what happened to the miraculous oil? Where is it? Where is it?
Oh,
where's
it ran out.
It ran out. He says.
The ninth night they used it, and then it ran out. But the eighth night, maybe it stayed.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Delama hayanisher. I think it's a printing mistake. Probably should be delama. The last night, why would the pach stay full? So therefore, it wouldn't have stayed full. So the last night was nothing. And he says, "Ve'im noimer." If you're going to say that mili hapach wasn't the second night, he says maybe the pshat in the Beis Yosef is they poured it out the first night. When they came the next night, they saw the jug was still full. Which means that when they came the eighth night to light, that's when the jug was full for the eighth night, on the eighth night. But then nothing happened the first night. Imken enkan hekernes the first night.
Then how would you be able to? Then how would you be able to know that it wasn't someone else that went and put tame oil inside?
No, they knew. There was there was tape outside. No one was allowed. No crossing. No one allowed in.
Caution.
No one allowed in. But he says in Taka the eighth night, Itaka would have, the miracle would have been on the eighth night, but not on the first.
Knocked off two.
He's knocked off two. Oy tiritz bebeis Yosef, he says that Belel Echad were number 6. They put all the oil in the candles. Itaka burnt the whole night. They came in the morning and boom, it was full of oil. The gamzen nidchem atamanis, the same shaila. Then the last night there was nothing there. Because the last night the Beis Yosef has to agree when they came, the oil had disappeared. So if you want to throw the first night into the pile, you lose the last night. So therefore he says he doesn't like any of the Beis Yosef's 3 answers. They're all thrown out of the park. Ulefi divrei, he says the Beis Yosef should have said better. Yichaylim the taretz shekeshenosnu ma'at shemen b'menorah nismala. He could have said better. As they started to pour from the jug in the candle, they poured in one drop, it became full. How come no one said that? As they poured from the jug into the
first 8.
Right.
Yeah, they poured the first 8, let's say, then boom, it jumped up. Then it would have been a miracle every single. He says, "Well, b'hachi nicha," that would have been a good answer. The imkain heka, there is a nest, both the first and the last. Inami, another option, which is we saw in the Rosh and the Namukah Yosef. Sheshafku kol Hashem b'menu, they put all of it in. U'shminis mimenu nidlik, every night 1/8 went. That answer he would have been happy with, because that means every night there was a miracle.
Something about I don't know why, like you would assume that the miracle happened only after they lit. They're like if it happened right away, they would know right away that the miracle happened.
Right. In other
Don't
words,
we know
yeah.
like that they were like waiting dramatically? Is it
Right,
gonna
in other
stay?
words, Rabbi, according
No,
to
it's
this-
not
a movie.
Rabbi, according
Wasn't
to
that
this
part of
That's-
the
that's-
next?
It not burn.
when
not go down. The oil not
Yeah,
go down.
when you're in kindergarten sitting around your mother, that's exactly how she explained it. But
They realized the next.
No, they
That's
put
what I'm
in.
saying.
no,
But
according to the
not.
answer
They
that the
put in
pach was
full
full, it
oil
was right away. As
after they lit it.
the Prichadosh is offering, maybe the first drop
right away.
filled up.
Poured and it filled
That's
up.
one opinion.
I'm talking
No,
about.
but what happened to the? Hold on. Almost all the Rishonim we saw all liked the answer that they filled it up and they looked at the pach, it was full.
Probably didn't
It
look
was
the next
immediate. It was
day.
immediate. No, it was immediate. No, because the whole vart is they saw the first night. That's the whole chap of the Beis Yosef. The first night there was a hecker. There was a hecker
It would
lanes.
be mixed nesses all 8 days because they
Right.
realized that the first.
Right. The problem is though, then the 8th night when they filled it up, the jug didn't miraculously refill. So what would be the miracle the 8th night? That's the Prichadosh's kasha on the Beis Yosef. So the Prichadosh said what?
The oil was.
I know. L'chayre, how come no one asked the Prichadosh's kasha? You would say, listen, the fact is that oil they had was miraculous. The 8th night they're using miraculous oil. It's like it's
just the order.
I'll show you a Meredith Shlomo Kluger in just a minute. So the Pri Chadash therefore says the 3 answers the Beis doesn't like. He said the Beis Yosef could have said something else which would make more sense. He gives 2 options: either the moment they poured it in, it filled up, or they filled it up l'chatchil and it went down 1/8 every night. But he says ein seirich l'chol zed. All this whole thing is barking up the wrong tree. He says, "Ein svara sheyikvu 7 days from Chava ve'elich, and the Iker Yoiman Itzachon, which they rested from their enemies, which is the 25th, they're not going to be Kaveil Adoris." He says, if not for the miracle of the oil, we still would celebrate the one day with Halal and Haidah because of the war. Because of the miracle of the oil, we added another 7 days, but the first day is the main, like the Meiri.
Yeah.
But the Pri Chadash gets credit for this answer. That it's for the Milchama.
What happened by his miracle when the light went all night? Did the oil
The
go
Marshal.
down?
Yeah, it seems like it went down very slowly. It went down very slowly. It was slowed. pours, like going
That's
down 1/8 every night.
Watching it and saying it's burning, but it's not taking the.
Oh
fuel.
no, that we haven't. That's the Rebbe's law. We haven't seen that yet. We're seeing it's going slowly, slowly. So, if you Reb Shlomo Kluger number 7, he says like this. By the way, look, the Pri Chodesh at the end wants to know why isn't Chanukah 9 days? Every Yom Tov we throw in an extra day because we're not sure exactly which day was Rosh Chodesh. So look what he gives a few answers. He says, first of all, it's only a Rabbanon Yom Tov, so you're not going to be machmer an extra day.
Machmer. Everyone loves Chanukah.
Inami, he says that we dafka 1/8 to hint to the bris milah that they wanted to annul. He says third, Inami, we dafka 1/8 to clearly know exactly how long the miracle went. We want it to be a precise resemblance of how the miracle was. But some want to say, really, the Chanukah should be 7 days, Taka, like all the Rishonim asked. Why is it 8? Because we throw in the extra day, because it's sake of the Yom. That's really why it became 8. No, this kasha of the Pri Chodesh is the reason why it's Taka 8 days. All right. Look at number 7 is Reb Shlomo Kluger. Reb Shlomo Kluger, he says, "V'hine la'daita yesh loymar." He says, unbelievable chap. The kavan of Beis Yosef is kach. In number 7, taketh. As soon as they began laharik to pour a little bit from the pach into the menorah, as they were pouring from the jug into the menorah, the jug was refilling on its own. It's a new thing we haven't thought of yet. As the oil was leaving the jug into the menorah, it was refilling. It was refilling every moment. V'chein hoya b'chol pam v'pam mikol ma shehoyriku ma'at chazar nismala. Every drop that went out of it. So here's the shaila though. When they filled it the first night, there's 2 sets of oil now. There was one in the jug. Now there's the jug has plus the menorah. Which one has the natural oil? Which one has the supernatural oil? How did it work? Did all the natural oil go in the menorah and the jug has the supernatural? Or fakert, the jug kept the natural and the supernatural.
Will the miracle continue?
Shemer shel meis.
Which one had? So he said like this: V'im kain ka'es lo yodanu, we don't know. Imashid liku b'yom aleph, the first night, was that the natural oil and the supernaturals in the jug, or maybe it was fakert?
But wasn't the first one also a miracle?
So,
because it had the seal, and now all the seals were broken.
That's what the Meiri and the Sefer Eshkol said. That, but most don't say that. The Meiri and the Eshkol said that. But what Shlomo Kluger is saying like this. He's saying like this. Look at all 8 nights, right? If the first night it was the supernatural oil that went into the menorah, and the natural stayed in the jug, then the same thing every night. The jug kept on holding the natural oil, the supernatural went in the menorah. So then Taka, the 8th night was natural. It was the natural stuff went in, the jug didn't refill, and that's it. So then you would celebrate the first 7 nights. But if it's the other way, if what went into the candle was the natural oil,
First night, why you celebrate?
so why are you celebrating the first night, but you'd celebrate the 8th night because it's coming from supernatural? Because when you have a suffix of the Rabbanon, there's if you live in a regular city on Purim, you lane on the 14th. If the city was a walled city in the times of Yeshua, you lane on the 15th. What if you're not sure if the city had a wall? You lane both. Why? Lane neither. Since Megillah's Rabbanon, each day is a suffix. We don't say that. You can use suffix Rabbanon to cancel. You do both. You do both. So says Shlomo Kluger, that's why you celebrate both days. That's why you celebrate both. Yeah. Comes a Taz in number 8, and then we'll mention Reb Chaim and the Rebbe, and then we're going to finish. The Taz says in number 8, Betur Hevi L'Shana Acheres, they made 8 days. Hiksha Beis Yosef, Lama Kavu 8 days. Since the oil in the jug had enough for 1 night, so the miracle is only 7 days. He gives 3 answers, Ayin Sham. Va'al Kulam, we're number 8, the 6th line. They're all difficult. She'ein Lanu Remez Mizesh and Asakain. The Beis Yosef is dreaming. All these 3 answers are hypothetical, maybe, they're all, theories. Imkain, they're hypotheses, but the Gemara should have mentioned this. Why doesn't the Gemara mention anything about this? He says, he says, I think Pshat's like this. Dulamafreya retroactively on a royin that the first night there was a miracle. Why? Based on a Zohar. The story of There was a Navi Ovadia who was hiding 100 prophets from the wicked queen Jezebel, the wife of Achav. He hid them 50 in one cave, 50 in the other. Now it's expensive because people need to eat. So Ovadia was borrowing money from Yehoram, the son of Achav, and then Ovadia passed away, and Yehoram tells Ovadia's wife, "Don't have the money, I'm taking your kids. So she came running to Elisha, and Elisha said, "Do you have any kalim in your house? Do you have?" Right. So she said, "I have a little thing of oil."
Famous, yeah.
So he says, "Bring as many kalim from
kept
your."
on pouring.
Right. Why did she need to have that original flask? Why can't Elisha go home, and there's going to be oil everywhere? No. There has to be something natural to begin with on which the bracha can take effect. Ma yesh lichi babayis. He asked her, "What do you have?" And the Zohar says, "Ein hu yisparach oisa." Hashem doesn't make a miracle to give a bracha unless something already exists. The bracha has to. Hashem doesn't want to make ex nihilo. It has to be chal on something, even if it's small. But the Eibishter will put a bracha laharbes hamat. Ma'ashenkin, if it's empty, a bracha can't be chal to make a beri chadosha. Nichos. And now it makes sense. If the first night all the oil would have been used up like it should have been, then there would have been no oil for the rest of Chanukah. There would be no room for the nest to take effect. It must be that even the first night, some of the oil that should have been used up remained in order that the oil can expand. Okay. It's almost like, I think he's using the answer to the Beis Yosef, that when they came the next morning, they found it full again. But how could the oil have regenerated itself? It must be something remained from the first night. But it lived through the whole night. That's the miracle. Something must have remained. So in order for the bracha to be chal.
Did they fill it fully or what? Or the 1/8? Sorry.
I think the answer is they filled it full.
But the tiny bit.
Next morning it all went down except for a drop, and now a bracha can take effect. Now what was the bracha? I assume, like the Beis Yosef mentioned, that they refilled. That
in the kad or in the...
No, the chayr in the menorah itself, because they completely filled up the menorah. They went down almost completely. A little bit remained. That's the miracle, because it went through the entire night. It should have consumed all the oil, but from that was able to regenerate. Okay. Comes Reb Chaim Brisker.
So what does it mean?
So now, so once the oil regenerated later, they realized that must be the first night. Not all of it was consumed. That's what he meant lemafreya. Because how could the miracle have happened? Must be something remained. But it went a whole night. They realized the miracle. That's what the Taz says. Comes Reb Chaim Brisker, and Reb Chaim Brisker said, now it's recorded by students of his, and many believe he never said this. There's a huge controversy if he said it or not. But Reb Chaim Brisker said that for the menorah you need to use olive oil, not miraculous oil. Miraculous oil with shemen shel nes doesn't work. Yeah. It doesn't work.
That's for many mitzvahs.
Oh. So many quote Reb Chaim as saying you can't use supernatural products for halacha. Supernatural products don't work for halacha. It's based on the story actually of that woman, the Shunamis, when she came to Elisha. The Radak quotes a Tosefta that she asked Elisha, "Do I have to take off Maisa from all of this oil?" Elisha said, "No, it's miraculous oil." It sounds like miraculous items are not subject to halacha, so then they can't be used for the menorah. So Reb Chaim asked, all this answer the Rishonim give that they poured it in and then the jug was full with what? Miraculous oil? You can't use it. You can't use it.
Like a miracle cow.
So Reb Chaim, exactly. So Reb Chaim said like this. So Reb Chaim gave an answer. In fact, the Rebbe uses these words as well. There's a difference between a miracle in quantity versus quality. If it's a quantitative miracle of oil, then that excess oil is miraculous and it's no good. But if it's in the quality, if you have a minute amount of oil, but it has super nuclear power and it just goes and goes and goes and goes, miraculous power in a natural substance can be used for halacha. Right. So if it's an eichus miracle, it's okay. So therefore, which answer does he learn? He learns the answer the Pri Chadash mentions, the Mukhi Yosef, the Rosh. They put in all of it like Hatchila, they filled it up to the top. It went down 1/8 every night. Why did it go down 1/8 every night? It's natural oil, but it had a supernatural power. That's what he says. And everyone quotes it b'shem Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim's own Einiklich say he never asked a question, never happened, because miraculous products are chayiv in halacha.
Was that his?
What's the source that they bring? It's a major. I'm going to finish up, but it's a
No one so
major
far
a
said
major
that it
debate.
lasted all 7 days.
The Magen
Morning to
Avraham
night,
says.
but not here.
Not it. It's in his commentary Zayis Ranon on Medrash.
Because that
Right.
would have been a miracle the first night as well, because it's supposed to be
20
Erev
exactly,
HaKoiker,
and it went 24 hours. Right. Exactly. That's an answer.
Great answer.
Yeah. It answers everything. But no. The issue with that is you have a mitzvah to kindle the candle every night. It's not so posh. People ask on that Magen Avraham that you would have to put it out and rekindle it.
Right.
You have a mitzvah to not to have the menorah lit, but to actually light it.
How do you make a
They would
bracha?
have to go and put it out and relight
You
it.
can't make a bracha the second night.
Yeah.
It's still lit.
Special operator for the granite to clean out the wicks and
Every morning.
That's a separate.
Right. So you could say that they were afraid to do that because you're
didn't
cleaning
need
it
to.
out in order
It's
to
still
relight
burning.
it, but how are they going to relight it?
If it goes out, you have to
But the
clean it.
problem
Yeah.
is,
But if it keeps on going, well,
Yeah.
it is clean.
but they had a mitzvah every night to relight it. But you'll say they thought that if we put it out, the question, but what was with the oil? According to that Magen Avraham, it lit for 8 days completely straight. But what was with the oil? If the oil stayed full, then right before Shkia, they should, or plug mincha, whenever they lit, they should put it out and relight
Be
it.
scared.
Anyhow, but
And that could still mean it's burned all the time. Just because they put it out and put it on, it's still burned for the whole time. In theory.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It could have burned if it was continuously burning.
Right, yeah, you could say that. So,
So what does it ever say?
Yeah, but how does Chaim Brisker's grandkids? What gives
they
them
say,
the right to say
because
that?
they say they never heard from any of Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim had a son, the
They were
Brisker
there the
Rav.
entire time.
All of the Brisker Rav's kids said, we never heard, our father told us everything he heard from his father. We were with our father Chanukah year after year. We never heard our father quote this from Reb Chaim.
They heard him give a Dvar Torah on this in yeshiva when the other students said
They
it?
would have expected to
They
hear
had- they
from
were
it.
with him 24/7.
A raya they bring is that there's a Targum Yonason in Parshas Vayakel. When the Yidden donated to the Mishkan, where'd they get the oil from? It came from Gan Eden. The Targum Yonason clouds brought it from Gan Eden. So the shaila is oil from Gan Eden. Is it miraculous? What type of olive tree is there in Gan Eden? You see, the Medrash says that by Noach, the dove, had the olive branch from Gan Eden.
Yeah.
So does that mean Gan Eden has natural olive
Yeah,
trees?
it's a physical place.
So Tzemach Tzedek has a mimer where he says Gan Eden, where Adam and Chava were, was it was a mamutza between Gashmis and Ruchnis. It's a very different type of Gashmis than we're used to. So there was an old guy in Eretz Yisrael who said, as a Rosh Yeshiva, years ago I met an old man in a hotel, and he told me when he was a kid on the train, he was with Reb Chaim Brisker, and he said, Rabbi, I heard you asked on all these Rishonim that how could there be miraculous olive oil, it's possible for the menorah. And Reb Chaim said, Kindele, ich hab das keinmal nicht gefragt. I never asked that question.
We had the
So quite if you take this testimony from what he heard when he was a
guy
kid.
on the bus,
So sometime that you don't know exactly how the kid presented it. You see, I'll tell you why. Many people presented that Reb Chaim said you can't use miraculous products for halacha. You could say that's b'chal not the word. It could be miraculous products are chayiv. But you need shemen zayis, you need olive oil from an olive. This is not oil from an olive. In fact, that's how the Rebbe asked a question in the Sikha. In number 11 comes the Rebbe, and the Rebbe has a kasha on Reb Chaim. Because Reb Chaim wants to learn, they put all of it in one night, and then it went down every night. The Rebbe tainas, the chiyuv of making sure the menorah is full would dictate that the second night, you have to add the 8 that's missing, even from Tomei oil. Because since everyone's Tomei, the Tumei is kind of overlooked. The Rebbe learns in a Ha'ara, he actually quotes a Prima Gadim in the Ha'ara, who says that if it went down 1/8 every night, your chiv to make sure the candles are full would necessitate every night you fill up the lack with Tomei oil. So the Rebbe says, let me tell you what really happened, okay? This is what really happened. And the Rebbe takes Dafka, the third, hold on. The Rebbe takes the third answer of the Beis Yosef, and he says in number 11, they put all the oil in the candles, and in the morning they found they were still full. That was the third answer of the Beis Yosef. V'yeshloimer, says the Rebbe, the Pirish in them is, not that the Shemen hat ausgebrennt und danach haben sich die Neres wieder angefüllt mit Shemen b'derech nes. When you learn the Beis Yosef's third answer, you think pshat's like this. It burned through the night till there was maybe a drop left or nothing, and boom, it regenerated. Or like the Taz, a little bit left, and boom, regenerated. But then the regeneration is miraculous oil. That's not so posh. Many hold as long as the beginning if what the Eibishter added on the original, the principle, was natural, then everything might have that halacha. That's how the Kli Chemda learns. The Rebbe is not going with that. No, by Elisha, the Zohar that the Taz brought was B'chlal for Hashem to make a miracle. He would take a step further. If the principle was considered natural, then whatever's added is bound by the same halachas. It has to do with now that with the flesh that they're making. Rav Moshe Feinstein writes in a letter: if the original cell of meat is fleishiks, whatever is expanded is fleishiks. So the Kli Chemda says so too. A miraculous item, boom, kaboom, anu, it's potter from halacha. Like you create something to say for Yitzirah, boom. But if the original amount, dose, was regular natural stuff, whatever's added has the same din. The woman was told by Elisha, you don't have to take meiser. Reb Moshe says in a letter, it's because the original amount of oil she had, she'd already taken meiser from it. It was already potter. So whatever was added had the same din.
That's great.
So actually they say based on the Taz, since a little bit of oil remained the first night, whatever grew from it was also still chayiv in the mitzvah. The Rebbe's not learning like that. The Rebbe is not learning like that. The Rebbe says pshat like this: the oil b'chlal did not diminish, not even 1/8, nothing at all. The shemen hat gebrannt und zusammen damit, while it was burning, is von ihm gar nicht nechzig geworden. It didn't diminish, like Chazal say that a fire came from above. By a fire from above, it burns, it doesn't it. Ulahoyer. Man soll sagen, as can sein, ad lokas emne b'shemenes. Even if you could say that you could light with miracle oil, v'bal da erhotit chunas von shemen zayitz kanal. Yeah, even if you say that whatever miracle happened, it's fine because you can use miraculous oil for the menorah. Is aber moving as der eish v'era menorah muss sein azav was kommt von dem shemen lamor.
What does that mean? What is that last line?
I don't know.
So what's the translation?
Is aber moving that the eish v'er hamenorah, that is even if you're going to say that the hadlokas neiris hamenorah with miraculous oil, the miraculous oil fills the need of the oil in the menorah, but the fire and light
Sounds like
has to come from oil.
Right.
I don't know. Okay, that's between adlok and the actual light that comes from it. Okay, I don't know. Okay, that's something else you have to analyze. But kum tois as in dem nes is given adover v'fuche. There were two opposites. There was a eish tivi, there was a natural fire, and a natural light. Again, the difference of the. All right, fine. Which comes from oil. Muz der by zayin kiloyin hashemen. In order for it to be natural oil, it would have to be consumed. But on the other hand, it didn't diminish at all. So it was consumed but didn't diminish.
Burning bush.
So exactly. It burned, it was a natural burning, but yet it didn't disappear, it didn't consume. Fine. And the Rebbe ties this, we had a whole shir once about nimna hanimnois, about if two opposites can happen. Can you move and be still at the same time and things like that? And but the vort of the Rebbe over here is that's the mile he has over Reb Chaim. Right. So the vort that the Rebbe has here over Reb Chaim Brisker is he's agreeing to Reb Chaim that we don't want to have miraculous oil, we want to have natural oil. And as long as the miracles in the quality, the power, that's fine. But Reb Chaim holds it diminished 1/8 every night. The Rebbe had, but then every night you would have a halachic obligation to fill the missing amount of oil, even with tamei oil. So the Rebbe says you must say nothing diminished. Nothing diminished.
What was the miracle?
It was burning.
What about the miracle the 8th day?
So you're saying why is it?
Because what happened? Because when they came the 8th day in the morning, there was no oil left. There was no reason for the miracle because or else they would have lit it the 9th day. You have the pre-chodesh as kasha. So for that we'll answer what Blank mentioned. The reason why no one else till the pre-chodesh asked the kasha. The fact is on the 8th day they were using oil which they only had miraculously, so it's part of the miracle. But the Rebbe would agree that on the 8th night this didn't happen. It actually burns completely. You're celebrating because the fact that you had that oil was due to a miracle. Okay, so those are, we discussed, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13 different answers.
We have 187.
That's it.
Wait, can you just learn?